Hey, how's it going guys? My name is Aylwood and today we're taking a look at Hood, Outlaws and Legends, a brand new game just released on pretty much all platforms except the Switch. And to answer the ultimate question, as always, is it worth your time? So, Hood is a multiplayer, third-person, stealth-like action RPG. Set in a violent, medieval world, you take on the role of a selected outlaw, tasked with plundering a set location's riches before your opponents. You'll be teaming up with 3 other fugitives, engaging in subtle yet aggressive combat, all while beating your rival outlaw gang to both riches and glory. So aesthetically, considering Hood is far from being the same high quality as a modern AAA title, I have to say I was quite surprised by its impressive visual standard. The devs have really pushed that raw, violent, medieval style of gameplay hard, an idea that gets complemented very well by this game's visuals. Colours used are generally quite dark and weathered throughout, giving all areas of the game an undeniably realistic touch to them, with even the brightest of objects having at least a hint of ruggedness. Lighting effects are brilliant in my opinion, very powerful in-your-face attack and explosion particle effects, combined with incredibly subtle environmental lighting, create almost hyper-realistic environments with a hint of fantasy that really makes these hazards stand out. And that's not including the ambient lighting, mist effects, shadow effects and various weather conditions. Very good job. Textures and detail are also pretty top-notch. Practically all texture surfaces are very sensitive to the ambient lighting, definitely more than other Unreal Engine games I've played in the past, giving smooth stone, crude iron and even wood beams a different gloss intensity that's noticeable practically everywhere. The textures themselves are pretty good, not the best I've ever seen, but it's the insane amount of ambient lighting that really creates this high quality visual standard that I honestly couldn't get enough of. The UI is practically flawless, everything you could possibly need in a tidy arrangement on screen, with plenty of subtle animations that don't hinder your focus area whatsoever. Other screens like the map, team score screens and the various shops at camp are all very clean and effortless to navigate, just the way we like it. The default motion blur setting was a bit too much for me however. Luckily you can decrease this in your settings. If you compare the areas of Hood to similar games like For Honor, level layouts are absolutely huge. Each area is set not just in and around a stronghold, but almost like a mini city. Some areas can have a church with multiple floors, a barracks and an entire village camp surrounding it. I was genuinely shocked. This may also explain why there's only a handful of stages available though, something I'm sure the devs will improve on as the months go by, so don't worry. The ground clutter is just right in my opinion, a touch too much in some areas, but again adjustable in settings. Character and enemy designs are a bit hit and miss compared to the other visuals of the game. Equipment and clothing designs are fine, both playable characters and state units have brilliant attack, running and crouching animations, as well as lock-on movements. Things like sliding, certain equipment physics, staggering and search mode NPCs however could use a bit of work and often affect my visual immersion when I'm concentrating, especially when stood on uneven surfaces. Armored units however like state knights and especially the sheriff look amazing and really blend simplicity and strength impressively well. The assassination animations are also very good, but again, provided you're not stood on an incline or near any kind of object. Overall, a very good visual standard that could be better after a few needed touch-ups. The few OSTs of Hood, I have to say, are excellent. Very unexpected, but definitely excellent. Considering the more stealth-orientated style of gameplay, you would expect soundtracks with a more covert feel to them. To my pleasant surprise, however, they've gone for a fully orchestrated, eerie, intense, almost horror-like vibe that really adds to the intensity while moving around unseen. The tracks when starting a game contain drawn-out sounds, pulsating beats, and many unexpected silences. This, however, transitions transitions into a more dense, powerful, warlike ambience as the game progresses, especially when the state is on high alert or the chest is being extracted, all of which complement each other very well and create an immersive blend of intensity and strength. Everything else sound related, like movement sounds, attack sounds, and the very robust ambient sounds are top-notch quality and really add a realistic touch to the game's audio. They do seem to be set a bit too high on default, but if anything, this simply adds to the immersion, so I wouldn't recommend changing anything. The occasional voice acting throughout the game is also pretty good. Both state units as well as playable characters have a decent amount of voice lines that don't overpower your audio experience and instead activate on occasion. It's also very funny the first time you hear the sheriff get pissed off and swear because he's too slow to actually catch you. Definitely an impressive soundtrack quality that really shines with the use of headphones. Now for the gameplay. So, as Hood is of course a completely online multiplayer game, it obviously has no actual difficulty options to choose from before you play, just the way we like it. The lore is practically non-existent from a linear gameplay perspective, but as mentioned, you take on the role of a selected outlaw hero who seems to be part of some sort of poverty-stricken gang. Being the outlaw/legend that you are, you and 3 other players seek to infiltrate a fortified area owned by the state. You locate the vault, steal the gold-filled chest, and that is your storyline. There is, however, a collectibles station at the base camp where you can read up the story on certain locations and units, which do give a bit more backbone to the actual plot. Unfortunately though, if the lore isn't shoved directly in my face, I'm generally not interested and couldn't really be bothered to discover any kind of story when honestly, there's no real need for one. When you first start the game, you're thrown straight into a decent introduction mission where you seamlessly play as all 4 characters and take on a single player heist. Once complete, you appear at your campsite hub where you can join a match, select your character, and actually play. The controls of Hood are pretty straightforward. You have your general movement controls as you'd expect, with the addition of crouching, sprinting, sliding, tagging, distracting, and assassinating. Crouching obviously helps prevent being noticed by NPCs and players, while also reducing the sound you make. If you hold the crouch button while sprinting, your character will slide across the floor, then into a crouched position. Tagging is to alert your teammates of a chosen object or enemy, which provides a coloured border around the target that can be seen through walls for a certain amount of time. When it comes to distracting, your character can either whistle when pressed, or throw a rock when held, both of which can be used to lure NPCs towards a chosen location if performed correctly. And assassinations are your bread and butter kill method when it comes to both NPCs and enemy players. If you're directly behind an enemy target except the sheriff, you can perform a one-shot kill animation that doesn't alert NPCs and insta-kills players regardless of their HP, whether they're in combat or not. A pretty unique feature for a PvP based game, I have to say. The base objective of the game is not far off its storyline. You infiltrate a state-owned location, pickpocket the sheriff for his key, use the key to open the vault, carry the treasure chest to an extraction point, then use the winch progression bar system to fully complete the extraction and win the game. What makes Hood unique compared to similar games, however, is its state alert system, capture locations, and character traits. Since the game is definitely more orientated towards stealth, it's actually more beneficial in terms of game progression that both teams remain hidden from the state as much as possible. If a teammate or enemy player is spotted by the state and raises the alarm, certain routes get cut off by portcullises and alerted enemies take considerably more time to take down. Try to keep an eye on your map at all times, as you'll often stumble across spawn locations that can be captured and recaptured by both teams, which provide unbelievably better spawn locations compared to the default. And finally, depending on your character of choice, you get access to that character's unique attack methods, traits, consumable item, and ultimate ability. You've got ranged units that can fire projectiles, dodge incoming attacks, and use light melee, as well as heavier units that have both a strong and light attack in addition to a block/parry mechanic instead of dodging. Each character also comes with a few passive abilities, a grenade style consumable with varying effects, and an ultimate ability with a long cooldown to make each hero unique. You also have access to purchasable perks from your base camp, provided you have both the required level and gold. Now, everything mentioned does seem pretty good so far, yeah? but when it comes to actual combat, the game does need some serious work. All actions do require a set amount of stamina to perform, of course, but most melee attacks are a bit inconsistent in terms of homing accuracy and can be quite intermittent, especially due to the fact your directional input doesn't seem to affect your attack animation whatsoever. Most one-on-one fights between melee-only characters that know how to play usually consist of waiting for the enemy to attack you first so you can parry it, then simply follow up with an attack of your own. This is due to the very harsh recovery animations and the lack of consistency with follow-up attacks. Ranged units seem to have a better time since projectiles are generally harder to parry, and dodging, if timed well, seems to be far more beneficial than blocking since it uses less stamina and allows you to follow up quickly while your opponent is still finishing their attack animations. 2v1 and group fights can also be a pain since coordinated players will simply get into a position where one is in front of you and the other is behind you. This way, regardless of who you target, one of them is pretty much guaranteed an assassination. Enemy NPCs are a bit of a nuisance as well. They usually stand there blocking forever, which you can't really do anything about, then attack you while you're in your recovery animations. I found the fastest way to dispatch them is to simply stand there, wait for them to attack first, and simply parry it. If you've alerted a few of them, however, you're best off just running away or you'll be there forever. Try not to mess with the sheriff though, because if he catches you, expect a grab animation followed by a one-shot regardless of how much HP you have left. All in all, a simple yet engaging combat experience in desperate need of a few touch-ups. So for the ultimate question, is it worth your time? Its brilliantly simple concept, impressive visuals and immersive atmosphere set an outstanding foundation for a potentially amazing game. The combat system, however, could use some serious work. I'm going to give this game a 4-star or 79 out of 100. As I've said a few times now, if the combat system had some serious improvements, this game has the potential to be absolutely incredible. I love the whole stealth-orientated gameplay, silent assassinations and remaining hidden at all times. I love how the game kind of feels like a 3-team free-for-all instead of a 1v1, since you could consider the actual state as being the third team of the game. I love the extremely obvious tagging borders to alert teammates, as well as the core objective with the key, the vault and extracting the chest. So simple yet so much fun. I didn't mind the punishing spawn system if your team hasn't captured any map locations. If anything, it just teaches new players to pull their finger out and grab those spawn points. Certain controls like crouching and getting assassinations to work can sometimes be intermittent if you've just come out of an attack animation or if your assassination target is moving at the same speed as you. Certain character animations could do with a few touch-ups to create a more seamless movement effect. Setting tags can be intermittent as well and needs to be less precise to allow consistent tagging during high intensity situations. But regardless of these flaws, I have to say I had a lot of fun playing this game. Yes, the inconsistencies and exploitable combat mechanics can be frustrating at times, but since you have the element of surprise on your side most of the time, you can often dispatch players before they have a chance to react to you anyway. The game also promotes teaming up with friends, since each player character almost has a mini role to fulfill, and coordinated attacks can really shut down enemy teams. Like I said, the potential is definitely there regardless, and if the devs are really going to commit to making this game amazing, I honestly can't wait to see how it develops. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more games I'll be reviewing in future, and always remember guys, if you do end up getting this game, keep an eye out for that sheriff because he'll fucking have you. But as always, all the best guys, take care.